At the beginning of the first millennium AD, the Edo people had cleared the area of the forest they occupied and were living in clusters of independent village settlements. Each village was led by an elder, usually the oldest man in the settlement. In circa 300 AD, these villages united, partly for protection and partly to enjoy better economic opportunities. The most powerful village head became the king. The people would come to believe their rulers were not just ordinary men but kings from heaven. This gave rise to the title Ogiso, from the words Ogie, meaning king, and Iso, meaning sky. In their view, the Ogiso was a ruler sent by God. During the reign of the Ogisos, Edo territory was known as Igodo Migodo, a name taken from the name of the first Ogiso, Ogiso Igodo. Thus, Igodo Migodo means land of Igodo. It is not certain when Igodo Migodo was founded precisely. However, it is generally accepted by Benin historians that there were 31 Ogiso reigns in total. While different historical lists vary in the names, order, and length of their reigns, scholars have been able to use these lists to create a chronology of Igodo Migodo, and most agree that the Ogiso period began around 335 AD. Some early traditions point to Udo, a settlement situated about 24 kilometers to the northwest of Benin City, as probably the original settlement of the Ogiso. And some scholars also regard Udo as the initial capital of Igodo Migodo, and a part-time royal residence of the first Ogiso, Ogiso Igodo. Archaeological evidence supports Udo's antiquity. It's considered the oldest town in the area. In fact, the walls and ditches surrounding Udo were found to be older than those of Benin City. In the late 1940s, during botanical research near the Okomu Forest Reserve south of Udo, the Cambridge Botanical Expedition mapped Udo's ancient walls and ditches, uncovering charcoal fragments and pottery. They also found the bronze works produced in Udo to be different in style and older than that of Benin. At some point, Ogiso Igodo moved the capital from Udo to Ugbekun, a settlement a few kilometers to the southeast. The reason for this is not certain. It has been suggested that it was to move further away from attacks by the Yorubas, or constant rebellion within Udo. Ogiso Igodo died in Ugbekun, and it remained important in Edo history. It became a religious hub, home to many sacred sites, shrines, and oracles, some still active today. Not all oral accounts agree that Igodo ruled from Ugbekun, but most agree that his successor Ogiso Ere eventually moved the palace and with it the seat of power to the area that would grow to become Benin City. The Ogiso dynasty of Igodo Migodo was a highly structured monarchy that endured for many generations. The 31 Ogisos who ruled during this era were said to include 2 women. It is uncertain whether these rulers were initially elected or inherited their positions through primogeniture. The Ogisos granted each community autonomy, transforming Igodo Migodo into a network of thriving, self-governing settlements. These towns were led by their own chiefs, who paid tribute to the Ogiso. Most of the towns were surrounded by earthen walls, which likely marked boundaries rather than serving as military fortifications. The first excavated Iron Age settlement in the Edo territory is dated to circa 7th centuries AD, so ironworking was of great importance at the time. The economy was predominantly agricultural, supported by skilled artisans and craftsmen who were organized into guilds. The reign of Ogiso Igodo marked the beginning of centralized governance in Igodo Migodo. Igodo is remembered with a blend of history and legend. Often described as a figure of divine origin, he introduced administrative and social reforms that made it possible to govern the newly unified territory more effectively. It was during his reign that key cultural and religious traditions began to take shape, most notably the concept of divine kingship, where the ruler was seen as a sacred mediator between the people and the spiritual world. This belief would remain central to the Benin monarchy for centuries. Upon Igodo's death, his eldest son, Ogiso Ere, succeeded him. Ere worked to consolidate the kingdom further and moved the capital from Ugbekun to Benin City. He is credited with introducing 2 important symbols of royal authority, the Ada and the Eben. Historical accounts describe them either as swords of state or as ceremonial scepters. The Eben, a flat iron shaped like a leaf blade, could be carried by titled chiefs during ceremonies. The Ada, a curved ceremonial blade, was reserved exclusively for the Oba, who could grant its use to only a few high-ranking chiefs.
Ìdòwò ẹsẹ̀rú ìbejì àbíọ́n lera wọn ni ọmọríjà ó bá wọn dókun ẹ̀kọ́ ọ̀nà ẹni ìdòwú pa láyọ̀ ẹ̀pàgbẹ́ ní bá pọ̀ mọ́gánná ọmọọba ló pa àjíbọ́ba jẹun àti ìbájòyè ìṣeré o ìdòwò ògbó àjíkan lẹ́sà òkun síjọ́ ọmọgánná ìdòwò. Èṣù lẹ́yìn ìbejì ìyá Reggie bá rìn o Reggie bá ṣeré arẹ́dùn gbéra.
Africa is the only reason why Western Europeans get to enjoy such a high quality of life, especially for France. They brag about being able to live well even though they don't have to work as hard as Americans, but they omit the fact that all that comfort they enjoy comes off of the back of African resources and labor. England, Portugal, Germany, Belgium, Italy, and France all made a massive scramble for Africa in the 1880s, and France by far still has their foot in their old colonial ways. Even though these African nations have declared their independence, France and a couple other countries are still exploiting them, and they have given nothing in return to these African nations. They have built very little in infrastructure and construction. They have given next to nothing compared to how much they have taken to support their ways. Out of the 8 African coups that have happened since 2020, 7 of them were from French colonies. The French do not know how to build, they do not know how to innovate, they do not know how to grow democracy in any part of the world, which is why for the past 60, 70 years, they have just had French puppets that were ruling these African countries that finally got sick of how
Queen Mother, wake up. King Father, wake up. You sleeping on this teaching? It's you I gotta shake up. Wake 'em up. We the return of the Christ. Christ is not a man. It's a symbol of a community brought back to life. They got you looking for a red or white or blue savior. But here comes the black savior, Krishna, cat blazer. Tongue sharp like that razor. Original rap flavor. I speak in general terms cause I'm that major. Still got the pager privately. Don't lie to me. God is the Motorola mobilizing inside of me. My sheep know my voice and stay choicing and flock to me. When knowledge reigns supreme, ignorance you not gonna see. Unite with me, and I'll unite with you. Don't fight with me, and I won't fight with you. Establish law, that's what we gotta do. The future's dependent on us. Maybe this is not for you. I came to find you. We're the gods. I came to remind you. We're the gods.
Voodoo, in one word to me, is what we call laku, is community, and to its energy, it's the connection with yourself, connection within, and connecting with your energy, with your power. Once you're connected with your energy, with your power, you will be able to connect with the other beings, with their energy, with their power, and you create that community, that laku. And voodoo is the example that the universe gave us, the beautiful gift. That's what Voodoo is, a gift to remind us of who we are, to go back to who we are, like Dambala, Aida, Simbi, Water, Agwe, Ezlifreda. This is everything. Ogun, the warrior, the fire. This is everything to just tap in to yourself. That's what Voodoo is, to tap in.
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine, all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo Hoodoo 101. Powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. New Orleans National Voodoo Day became New Orleans International Voodoo Day this year. This shift in name reflects a truth we have always carried, that voodoo is both deeply local and profoundly global. Rooted in the rich soil of New Orleans and held in the hands of our community, our work continues to center the vibrant traditions, practitioners, and spiritual leaders right here at home. At the same time, we move forward with deep gratitude for the international ties that made voodoo in New Orleans possible. We walk in the footsteps of those who carried these sacred traditions across oceans, guided by the ancestors, and shaped by generations of resistance, resilience, and ritual. This change is not a departure, it is a deepening, a fuller reflection of who we are and who we are becoming. We will continue to honor the local New Orleans voodoo community as the heart of this event while strengthening the sacred connections that stretch from Haiti to Benin and beyond. And we certainly are grateful and appreciative of your continued journey and growing with us. We invite you to visit us at www.voodooday.org, www.vodouday.org for more information and coming updates about this powerful event and many events that we have throughout the year. We're certainly appreciative of those of you who continue to participate in our live chat. We're certainly grateful for you showing up to be here with us. Greetings to our faithful community member, Daniel Neal. Thank you so much for showing up with us. To our chat member, Dark Dominance 911, thank you so much for coming through. We certainly do appreciate you for coming and participating and attending this powerful podcast. And thank you, Elijah J. Dupas, for being an active member in the chat and often a active panelist here as a co-host. I will be unmuting Queen Mother, Sister Toni Val Martinez momentarily. Our elder Reggie, identified as Green Soap, leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth, also active member and co-administrator of NOIVD. We're so grateful for beloved Queen Mother Bianca Johnson Plessy, active and dedicated member of NOIVD and The Source. We're so grateful for my armor bearer, my Black Hawk Voodoo Wild Man, my first priest, Brother Joshua Nylan Tanner, active member and initiate with The Source, as well as team member for NOIVD. And we certainly continue to invite your global participation and support. You do not necessarily have to be local to participate and contribute to this endeavor. I'm in communication right now with some West African practitioners from a diverse group of ethnicities that are preparing to come on and participate with us in this live podcast. So we look forward to bringing them forward in coming episodes. We've been discussing ancestral inheritance, shadow work, generational entanglements, and generational curses, as they are often referred to. And I want to also bring into the conversation the presence of Haints and other spirit entities that can be developed and created out of these spiritual entanglements. In both psychological and magical circles, there's a growing awareness of the deep and often invisible ties that bind us to our ancestors. And these ties are not just of blood, but of energy, emotions, and unresolved experiences. Whether you refer to them as generational trauma or entanglements or generational curses, the effects are undeniable. Patterns of pain, misfortune, and unresolved issues can travel down family lines, influencing the lives of descendants in profound ways. And as spiritualists and spiritual practitioners, we have the tools not only to understand these patterns, but to heal them. And in many cases, to heal others, including our ancestral family, our ancestral lineage, and ultimately the global family. Generational trauma, also known as intergenerational trauma, refers to the transmission of emotional, psychological, and sometimes physical wounds from one generation to the next. This phenomenon is well documented in psychology, where it's often associated with survivors of trauma such as war, slavery, genocide, abuse, and extreme poverty. The pain and fear experienced by one generation can imprint onto the next, creating patterns of behavior, emotional responses, and even psychological and physiological conditions that persist long after the original event. And as I've shared in previous podcasts, science has now demonstrated that ancestral memory survives in the blood, in the DNA, at least 11 generations. So hot and cold, negative and positive, uh, many skills, talents, abilities, but also negative survive beyond the grave, beyond the life cycle of individuals, groups, communities to affect subsequent generations. Even the magical book references the sins of the fathers falling onto the sons and the children. And in a spiritual context, generational trauma can manifest as reoccurring life challenges and energetic blockages. A family may experience repeated misfortune in the form of financial difficulties, relationship troubles, health issues, often without understanding why these patterns continue. And as I've expressed in previous podcasts, we tend to know to some degree our relatives, but often beyond our parents, sometimes even our grandparents and our parents. Many of us do not know our great grandparents and beyond. And our host of ancestral fortitude that stands at the front line to protect, defend, warn, help us to create and recreate a reality that best mirrors our interests are often ancestors long beyond our awareness, our memory, and even the family awareness. A family may experience, again, repeated misfortune in forms of financial difficulties, relationship troubles, health issues, often without any understanding of the origins of these patterns. For spiritualists and spiritual practitioners, it is essential to view generational trauma not just as psychological issues, but as an energetic wound that must be addressed on both spiritual and emotional levels. We understand from quantum metaphysics, from string theory, that all energy was created at the point of the Big Bang, at the creation of the universe, if you will. And so energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be recreated, rejuvenated, rebirthed, if you will, reincarnated into a different form. Our plants become our absorb energy from the sun and then provide energy to our bodies. and then our subsequent waste product adds energy back into the earth, and it's a subsequent cycle and recycling of creation and recreation. One common example of generational trauma is the experience of women in families who have been subjected to patriarchal oppression. This trauma can manifest as a fear of independence, low self worth, or difficulty trusting others. Similarly, families with a history of addiction or abuse may pass down behaviors such as self sabotage, emotional detachment, or an inability to form healthy relationships. And in these cases, the trauma has woven itself into the family's energetic blueprint, creating a cycle that repeats until it is consciously addressed and healed. A generational curse, on the other hand, is a more intentional form of negative energy passed down through a family line. In folk practices and witchcraft, for example, curses are seen as powerful, focused energy that can affect the recipient's luck, health, and relationships. A generational curse may have been placed on an ancestor by another practitioner or person and could have been unintentionally created by the actions of a deceased family member. Regardless of the origin, the curse lingers, influencing the lives of future generations. Generational curses are often tied to specific themes, such as bad luck, poverty, or recurring accidents. The belief in curses spans many cultures, with some even claiming that certain families are marked by a curse, doomed to suffer for the misdeeds of their ancestors. And while this may sound extreme, it aligns with the spiritualist and spiritual practitioners' understanding of energy and intent. If powerful enough, an unresolved curse can indeed persist until it is consciously addressed and lifted. And while both generational trauma and curses can manifest uh, similarly in a person's life, the key difference lies in their origin. Trauma is often the result of emotional wounds passed down through familiar behavior within the family, while a curse is an external force acting upon the family. And trauma is a deep scar, while a curse is more like a binding or a weight pressing down on the family. And in both cases, witches have the power to break the cycle, heal the wounds, and clear the curse. And particularly here in the US, we have all, regardless of shadeism, colorism, ethnicity, race, class, status, have inherited a degree of generational curses built into the framework of this machinery, passed down at least 11 generations removed. And one of the key aspects of both generational trauma and curses is how they are transferred from one generation to the next. In psychology, this transmission occurs through learned behaviors, emotional responses, and sometimes even epigenetic changes, alterations in gene expression triggered by traumatic experiences. For example, children of trauma survivors may inherit not only their parents' behavior, but also a heightened stress response or other physiological markers. So, in spirituality and religion, as I draw the reading to a close for today, we understand this transmission as a form of energetic inheritance. Just as families, bloodline pass down physical traits, so too can energetic imprints and unresolved spiritual issues be passed from ancestor to descendants. And this imprint can shape not only a person's external life, but also their internal world, blocking their spiritual growth, causing them to repeat destructive behaviors, or making them vulnerable to outside influences. And tomorrow we're going to delve more into the role of ancestral spirits and healing generational trauma and curses, identifying the wombs, tools such as divination used to examine these conditions, ancestral healing rituals, and cord cutting and energetic cleansing. And so, as I unmute my beloved co-hosts to come in and share their experience and their information, please do come on in, Queen Mother, Sister Toni Val Martinez, Elder Reggie Green Soap, our beloved Bianca Johnson Plessy, and Brother Joshua Nylan Tanner. What say you all?
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing in the listening audience and in the panel? My beloved co-hosts. I think one of the most serious generational curses passed down through the family is domestic violence. Violence within the household, male perpetrated against females. It seems to me from my experience, this goes back generations and is passed down. And to me, it's funny that even males that wasn't raised with the abusive father and raised in a different environment, they still do the same thing. It's like it's imprinted in their DNA, like you were saying, Divine Prince.
Yeah.
So, and then another thing I always said, I have some friends that they have a curse in their family because it just boggles my mind how they are a family of black widows. How I say that is because the mother killed her husband, her brother killed, two of her brothers killed their wives, her daughter killed her husband, her son killed his girlfriend. Well, actually, he killed 3 of them, but he only got caught for killing 1. And it just boggles my mind. I mean, I was good friends with them. In fact, they related to my oldest children, and one of them just got out of jail from doing almost 30 years for killing her husband. And her brother's still in jail doing life in Angola. And I was like, how all of them just killed their mates like that? And going back in the family, when I asked, they had older generations, great aunts and stuff, and great uncles that did the same thing. Would you consider that a curse on that? Like somebody put a curse on their family?
What say
Divine
you, Elder
Prince?
Reggie?
From what I'm listening, Sister Toni, and welcome everyone. Divine Prince, always a great show. We could say it's a curse, but some of it could be like, let's say, from the mother generation forward with the kids, but not necessarily 6, 7, 8 generations back. Because sometimes you could get present day trauma that'll start anew within the kids and moving forward. That's the kind of way I'm kind of seeing it right here, because it seems as something was traumatic with the mother first.
No, it went back to her elders, to her aunts before her. So it wasn't
Gotcha.
just that generation. Her children, she's a product of a family that did that also. Like her aunts did that.
No.
So that's her mother's sisters that we know of.
Yeah, wow. That's
Yeah, it
It's
started
definitely.
with her mother's sisters, and then her 2 brothers, 2 of her children, and one I truly believe. I mean, he is a serial killer, but if he wouldn't have been in jail, there would be a lot more dead women. In fact, my oldest daughter stopped him as a teenager from killing his, what you want to call, high school sweetheart. That would have been his first one, because he was just in high school.
Sound like a lot of unaddressed conflict that has been, that continues to get passed on and not addressed properly. Like, I know Divine Prince was talking about, like, the methods and stuff that's utilized, the medicines and the rituals that is utilized to address those things, to uncover them, to look at them, to heal those things. Um, our communities have been faced with manipulation of many different forms and different kinds to perpetrate these type of things and to galvanize and to continue to foster this type of activity as a weapon of spiritual warfare, in my opinion. And I would say that as we're talking about generational curses and like domestic violence, I believe all those things do come through that. But I also think generationally we have other things that comes our way. Not so much on the, I guess you could say, curse side, but the things of healing, things of gifts and talents and skills and other things that our families have been pioneered in and have fostered and given to create a better environment. And I think we've been blinded to a lot of that information more so, and been hyper focused on the curses and the negative and the through media, through everything that we digest and that people give to the narrative that they propagate about our existence and so on and so forth. So I think there's a double-edged sword with generational uh, and ancestral DNA, and we have to address both sides of that. And I don't think we have been, and that's why those things foster like that, right? From great aunts to the future and to future generations that haven't even came yet. It's sad, but it's definitely needs to be done. More generational curse breakers needs to needs to take a stand and actually be there for their family and address these issues in these families, and that's the only people that can actually do that. Um, and I know a lot of us we do that work, so I just wanted to shed some light on that.
But like, how would you say, like, how could you like break something like that? I mean,
Sister Toni,
Information,
if I
being
may.
mhm.
being properly informed, just like you said, like in terms of what you was talking about that family and understanding that it's there and not avoiding it, not trying to, dealing with it for yourself individually first, and then demonstrating it within the family dynamics so people can actually see an example of how you can address it, how you can approach it, how you can handle it in those situations within the family, and being actively around the family to be able to be that light.
Sister Toni, if I may, so this actually is a great topic for me. So this actually is the basis of my practice within like the Hoodoo lane, and also within I work in healthcare, in primary care and care coordination. And the basis, I took some notes on this. The basis of my practice is I do a lot of generational trauma work, and I made notations on blood or ancestral memory, right? And this touches on what Joshua was stating, which is the double side, right? So just like when you have blessings that can run in your family, you have curses. So you can have someone who could sing like Mariah and dance like Omarion, but you could also have addiction or like alcoholism or like I don't know if I can say sex, but sex is addiction as well, and other things. Unable to keep a job, right? So A curse can be intentional or unintentional, right? So there's ways to unintentionally create a curse, which would be like a horrific happening or a wrong that was never corrected, or it could be it could be action or actor, right? So most people, when they think about a curse, they think about a person, usually like a practitioner, versus an action. You could do something horrible, and if it was horrible enough, like say someone passed from a horrible event, that would mark that spot, right? But also, if you did something horrible to someone, that could be a curse that you place on yourself that would have to be that you would have to write by either by going back to someone from that line to correct it, or by a series of deeds. It's kind of like credit. You can mess your credit up real quick, but it takes a long time to fix it. That's kind of like how some like spiritual law kind of works, right? And then there was something I wanted to talk about, which is like manifestations, right? The physical world is a mirror of the spiritual world, which I'm pretty sure everyone knows here, as well, everyone's spiritualist. And so sometimes physical manifestations can have a spiritual angle to them. And so what you have to do when you have someone who has a curse or entanglement, because there's various degrees, right? There's a difference between like a deliverance versus an exorcism. But sometimes it takes layered workings, prayers, veneration, spiritual baths, crossing, cleansing, and then you might have to go to deliverance or healing, restoring, right? And then in that shadow work, right? So when you do shadow work, typically you think yourself, but there's also generational work you have to do. So if you have when you go back to like your ancestral altar, you don't put everyone on your altar. The good people who are for you, that's why I would say known and unknown, those who come in love and wisdom, those are the people you go to when you need things that were within their power or skills that they had. But you could also do generational work, correcting wrongs with people who you were not good with, or people who had things that happened horribly to them, right? That's a higher level of work that goes beyond shadow work for self. But like Toni, it's usually it's layered working you can do for instance in the hoodoo lane, right? As a hoodoo root worker conjure, right? I usually stop at like deliverance. I mean, I have done exorcism, but there's certain things you could do from a folk level, and then there's certain things that it would take a deep cleanse for like a priest to handle, and that's either like a voodoo priest or like leukemy or a century or whatever track they're in. Usually, I go to either the voodoo priest or the leukemy priest. The Polaris are great, but usually I go to those two tracks for that type of work, for like deep cleansing or deep undoing curses of that nature. But the two things you need to have is spiritual sensitivity and discernment. So if you have spiritual sensitivity, you can usually tell if someone has like a dark energy or a dark or like if there's a deep like a spiritual rot in the person, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to use your discernment to know if this is something that's just or unjust. Just like when you do a work, right? Before you do any type of working, normally I do a divination. I need to make sure that the ancestors are sanctioning on the get down before I put it down, right? So you need sensitivity and discernment. And once you have that sensitivity and that discernment, then you follow it up with divination, whatever your tool is. I typically use like playing cards. And I do a diagnostic, usually like 6 cards typically, which each card has a different representation, which tells me different layers of what work has to be done or what has transpired, right?
Yeah, wait, Elijah, can I come in?
Yeah.
We got to put some context to this.
Mm-hmm.
First, I just done a simple Google search on curse. What is a curse? A solemn utterance intended to invoke, right here, a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. The supernatural power, if it is the generator behind the curse, then that supernatural power has to be dealt with.
Yes.
And the first thing you're going to do to deal with that power, you are correct, is a divination. But it has to be dealt with. And once you identify it, you have to find a way to appease it or work with it or ask it to leave. and this becomes very important when you're working, especially with the ATRs, is that
Yes.
when you do this divination and you are asking of a higher power sometimes to show you what it is, because our ancestors are there, but they only have a certain level of power. So let's say if it was the grandfather that let's just say back in New Louisiana, a hoodoo man put the curse down, or a witch put the curse down. We have to see what was the transgression the grandfather did.
Yes.
And we have to make corrections there. Then we could go to this particular entity of power and negotiate so it could cool down and leave the rest of the family members alone. That's if we're dealing with curse. But as Divine Prince eloquently said when he read the article, when you're dealing with generational curses and stuff like this is coming down from trauma, from slavery, or as Sister Toni's abuse. That is a little bit different than the curse. That's trauma. That's just effective trauma. That's what I like to bring out right there.
Yes.
I do
Sometimes there could be a that I actually agree 100%. And sometimes there could be a fine line between a generational curse and an entanglement. I have met quite a few people who've actually have had entanglements, and that's just usually from prior spiritual workers in the family that's affected the entire line. I have seen that quite a bit as well.
Elijah, I don't know what entanglement is. When you're using that particular lingo, it's throwing me off. Maybe
Me
you can do a
too.
Google search and read on it, because I really don't know what you're saying there.
Okay, I'll definitely talk with you on it. But I deal with that a lot here with some of the priests and various priests here. But I would definitely talk with you more about it. I would love to have this discussion.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe one night we'll do a class on it.
Yeah.
A topic on it.
Soulmate,
But I do
soul
have
entanglement, soul ties.
I have a
we can
quick
discuss that
question
another
for
time.
Elijah. And what you was explaining about divination and working with different answers. So my quick question is, before the show go out, when you're talking about when we have to go down our ancestral, like working with different, like even if it's ancient ancestral or just in spirits in general, to help us break through these generational curses and stuff. Is it true that sometimes you have to be able to know the language? Like sometimes some of those old ancient spirits or ancestors may not have spoken English back in that time. So in order to like work with them and or call on to them, do we have to like know their language or write in their language? Because I know that some of the Catholic priests, sometimes they talk or read in Latin to cast us certain spirits away or bring certain spirits in to fight certain battles and stuff.
That's not necessarily needed, particularly in Voodoo, Ifa, many West African traditions that have a form of divination that we use in communicating with ancestral spirits. So again, the divination is critical, and my favorite is certainly going to be the Fa, the most complex and complete divination on the land.
And our ancestors believed in that heavily. That stuff was in bloodlines and family lines, such as curses and generational curses and curses placed on them. And that was the basis for them always. When we had, Katrina, they messed that up for New Orleans, but it was always when a man came around courting a woman or a woman was seen with a man, the family members would always ask who your family is.
Yes.
So that they can look back. They've been around long enough to say that, stuttering runs in that family. The mental illness runs in that family. Alcoholism runs in that family. And if it was a family where they felt these things ran through the generations, they didn't want their loved one to be involved with that type of family, because it was a chance that their children would come out with those same curses. So our ancestors heavily believed in this subject.
Sister Toni, my family taught me about generational curses and trauma and things of that nature at a very young age. And I have 17 uncles and aunts that are legitimate. And on my dad's side, of the 10, all the boys, for 3 generations going back, every father and son has always had a contentious relationship, to say the least. And on my mom's side, all of a sudden they started dropping like flies. Boom, 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 right? But on my dad's side. There's so many stories I could tell you about my family and the different things that have happened. You know, I wish this was a longer segment, but like in my family, we're constantly trying to do the work of like unwinding. It's like a knot that's tied together, and you're trying to undo it to make the string straight again. That's kind of like what's happening in my family for generations now, 3-4 generations now.
I have something
And
similar in
listen,
my family.
before we
Go
lose
ahead.
our time, I just wanted to take the time to thank my Instagram listeners for being present with us. Trevo, Maine, Yamame Negrita, thank you so much for joining us. Keisha Fashionista, Open Studio Acting, Aaliyah BBB, thank you so much for joining us. The Hair Tech Queen, Amos Features, Leo Massacre, thank you so much. Cardell Tank Patterson, thank you so much for coming through. Arcane Arts UK, Kay Gassi, thank you for joining. And Tanziak, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, Divine Prince, please. I'd like to answer Sister Bianca question. Now, the last ritual we done for the new moon, Divine Prince eloquently worked it with a shoe. A shoe can translate, when you're going through the ATRs, a shoe can translate all languages. Sister Bianca asked about if a curse is laid in a language. Let's say a curse is laid in Latin or in French or in Spanish. When you're working with Eshu, he can translate all languages. So if the work is cleared by Eshu, then it's good. Because he sits at the middle of the crossroads, and that's also a continuation of him of understanding all languages. I just wanted to add that to the question you had asked, Sister Bianca.
Thank you.
And we come to the end of this segment, and we're going to pick it up tomorrow from where we left off today, because this is what they would call a hot topic. I'm going to turn it over to Elder Reggie to close us out. And I also would like to say, yeah, I need to know more about entanglement, because I didn't hear that word until it related to a romantic type dealing here a couple of years ago.
You talking about Will Smith?
Yeah, that's the first time I heard the word entanglement being used with people. Now I knew entanglement when things got entangled, string got entangled. I knew what that was, but I need that broke down to me to understand, how that fixes in, say the supernatural world. But I'm gonna turn it over to beloved Elder Reggie to close us out tonight.
Thank you, Sister Toni. Thanks everyone in the chat, Instagram, who all chimed in. What a powerful, powerful show tonight. We have several advertisements. First one is a ritual prayer and application ceremony will occur on Wednesday, the 21st of November, in the sign of Scorpio at 6:30 p.m. The address is 710 Cluett Street. It's a ritual spiritual warfare gathering. Please, if you're in the local vicinity, come out. And also we have, come out and join us for Day of the Dead, Fed Gede celebration. It's going to be this Saturday coming, November the 1st, starting at 5 p.m. up until 10 p.m. It's going to be in New Orleans Healing Center, and that address is 2372 St. Claude Avenue at St. Roch and St. Claude Street. please, if you're in the local vicinity, please come out enjoying the festivities. It's a great, great show. Lest we forget, the spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. And it's the social division that we work hard every night to try to heal. With that, I say ashe, ashe, ashe. Good night, everyone, and we love you until tomorrow night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Odabo.
M'bral fè un routo, an ale avec moi. Di Saint-Jacques, m'bral fè un routo, an ale avec moi. Ou met tan de kano, pi go viri gade, an ale avec moi. Di Saint-Jacques, m'bral fè un routo, an ale avec moi. Di Saint-Jacques, m'bral fè un routo, an ale avec moi. Ou met tan de tire, pi go viri gade, an ale avec moi. Di Saint-Jacques, m'bral fè un routo, an ale avec moi. Di Saint-Jacques, m'bral fè un routo, an ale avec moi. Ou met tan de kano, pi go viri gade, an ale avec moi. Ou met tan de tire, pi go viri gade, an ale avec moi. Di Saint-Jacques.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this right in my DNA, yeah, I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees, it's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Meet you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name a Detroit red. He looks me in my eye and says you only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down.